In the newer Chipotle, the bowl can look familiar, yet something feels missing before the lid even snaps shut at the counter. A brand built on abundance, freshness, and moral confidence became a case study in smaller portions, higher prices, digital lines, and investor discipline. The ruin was not an empty restaurant or a boarded-up sign because Chipotle survived, expanded, and made shareholders very rich. The ruin was quieter. A beloved food promise slowly converted into a margin machine, with customers still standing in line to notice the difference. Chipotle began in Denver with a surprisingly narrow idea, serving burritos from an open kitchen where speed and freshness could exist together. Steve Owls, a classically trained chef, did not want another plastic fast food concept built on frozen shortcuts and endless promotional gimmicks. He believed a small menu, real ingredients, and a visible assembly line could make fast food feel cleaner, faster, and more trustworthy. That simplicity became the business model, because fewer choices meant faster service, tighter operations, easier training, and portions customers remembered. McDonald's saw the opportunity early, investing heavily while the burger business faced cultural pressure over obesity, nutrition, and a changing American diet. For McDonald's, Chipotle was more than a Mexican chain, because it looked like protection against a future where burgers carried reputational baggage. The Golden Arches supplied capital, real estate experience, and expansion power, but Els kept resisting the usual fast food operating manual. He rejected franchising, drive-through windows, cheap meat downgrades, and menu clutter because each shortcut threatened the experience he was trying to protect. That tension made Chipotle unusual, a founder-driven restaurant with corporate fuel behind it and a personality Wall Street could not easily standardize. When McDonald's exited, Chipotle became independent, and investors began treating a burrito chain like a rare American growth vehicle. The company had clean branding, loyal customers, strong restaurant margins, long lines, and an enormous map of future stores still unopened. Its stock climbed as Wall Street imagined Chipotle not merely feeding customers, but reinventing how Americans would buy fast casual food. The restaurants became symbols of a new dining habit. Quick meals that felt responsible, customizable, fresh, and more adult than old fast food. But the model carried a fragile center because freshness at national scale depends on suppliers, managers, hourly workers, kitchens, and daily discipline. In 2015, that fragile center cracked when food safety outbreaks struck Chipotle locations and turned its clean image into a national warning. Customers were sickened in incidents involving E. coli, salmonella, and norovirus, and suddenly the word fresh no longer sounded automatically safe. Federal agencies investigated, the company faced criminal scrutiny, and years later Chipotle agreed to a major food safety fine with prosecutors. Sales fell, trust evaporated, and the stock dropped hard enough to erase much of the company's golden age from investor memory. The crisis was not just about pathogens because it exposed the uncomfortable operational cost of idealism stretched across thousands of restaurants. Local sourcing and hand preparation helped make Chipotle feel different, but they also made failures harder to trace, contain, and explain. Els and his team rebuilt safety systems, centralized more preparation, changed procedures, and tightened oversight, but the old glow had already faded. The same company praised for resisting industrial food now had to industrialize parts of its process just to regain basic confidence. Shareholders watched the slow recovery, public embarrassment, and falling valuation, then began asking whether founder principles had become a financial liability. Into that weakened company stepped Bill Ackman, whose Pershing Square disclosed a major stake after scandal had made Chipotle vulnerable. Ackman was not coming as a chef, supplier, cashier, or customer mourning the old generous bowl, but as an activist investor hunting trapped value. Pershing did not need to own control of the company, because institutional frustration already created leverage against management and the board. Ackman gained board influence. Monty Moran left the co-CEO structure, and Chipotle's internal gravity began shifting toward harder financial measurement. The old question had been how to make better food at scale, But the new question became how to make each store pay harder. Digital ordering became the perfect answer, promising more volume without making every restaurant physically larger or every line visibly longer. A second make line could serve app orders separately, turning one restaurant into two engines squeezed inside the same four walls. It also changed the psychology of portions because online customers were not watching each scoop of rice, meat, cheese, or guacamole. Every small difference, multiplied across millions of bowls, could quietly become real margin improvement without any dramatic announcement to customers. If stories like this help you see how money and pressure reshape American companies, subscribe to Fortunes and Ruins for more forgotten collapses. The food safety crisis wounded Chipotle, but activist pressure helped redefine what recovery was supposed to mean inside the boardroom. Recovery no longer meant restoring the old bargain completely, but proving the chain could grow faster, sell digitally, and earn more per order. In 2018, Brian Niccol arrived from Taco Bell with media polish, digital confidence, and the operational aggression investors were ready to reward. His arrival marked more than a leadership change, because Chipotle moved from founder culture into an era of disciplined extraction. The headquarters shifted from Denver toward Southern California. Longtime corporate employees were disrupted, and side projects were shut down for distracting from margins. Niccol promised bigger revenue, more stores, stronger unit volumes, and a future where Chipotle could keep expanding across Middle America. At first, Wall Street loved the machine because sales recovered, digital orders surged, margins improved, and the stock entered another boom. But the same discipline that pleased investors slowly changed the customer experience, especially as prices rose and portion complaints spread online. Employees faced more pressure to control food usage. Managers tracked inventory tightly, and customers began filming bowls that looked smaller than memory. Chipotle once sold abundance with a moral glow, but the newer version often felt like efficiency wearing the old language of freshness. That is the central tragedy, because the brand survived while the emotional contract between customer, worker, founder, and food became weaker. Ackman's investment became enormously profitable as Pershing Square sold down its position after the turnaround it helped force had lifted the stock. Niccol later left for Starbucks, and the timing made critics wonder whether the machine had been squeezed before its consequences became unavoidable. What remained was not a dead company because Chipotle is still powerful, profitable, and present across American suburbs, cities, airports, and campuses. The ruin here is subtler than an abandoned factory, but it appears in the pause before someone asks for a little more. It appears in measured portions, watched employees, higher checks, disappointed customers, and executives describing operational tweaks as innovation. Chipotle became a lesson in how a company can win on the stock chart while losing part of what made people believe. Keep following Fortunes and Ruins for more stories where American wealth rises, power intervenes, and the aftermath looks different from the victory speech. The final image is not an empty restaurant, but a crowded one where the line still moves and something generous has quietly disappeared.